and your vote.
All right, we will call to order the meeting of the Judiciary Personnel and Licensing Committee meeting at 6:17 p.m. with all trustees present and 2 items on our agenda this evening. The first item on our agenda this evening is to consider an applicant for the Parks and Public Spaces Committee. And trustees, I'll open up if there's any conversation here.
So, so if you can't hear, or if you can hear us,
Christine?
Hopefully
I can hear now. Okay,
people can hear now. Okay, great.
Came back on.
Okay.
thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, I don't want I don't want to have to hear myself talk any further, but just for the benefit of if people didn't really hear anything I had to say, the one thing I hope that people will take away is how wonderful it was to see so many fantastic people raise their hand and be willing to serve our community. And every single applicant we got is somebody who would be an asset to the library board and to the community in serving on a committee or board in Shorewood. So thank you to everybody who was interested. What I want to talk a little bit about is what I was looking for as I reviewed applicants, and I want to give other trustees the opportunity to do the same. So, you know, for this role at this time, to me, what stood out as being very important is somebody who has experience working, you know, on other boards and committees, somebody who has management experience, knows how to work with other people, somebody who can, you know, view things through a DEI lens and can bring that perspective to service, know that we have, very talented people on the library board, and we have an incredible staff at the library, so what we really need is, for this board, we need somebody who is going to be able to fit in with the board and be able to jump in right away to make important decisions that are under the library board's purview. So that's really what I was looking for, is someone who could bring some, fresh perspective and fresh thought, along with leadership skills and really strong interpersonal skills to be able to navigate this role at this time. So that's what I was looking for here. But I'd like to turn it over to trustees to talk a little bit about, what you were looking for in a candidate as well.
Yeah. I'm happy to chime in here. So, I had a similar perspective on this. I was really interested in somebody who I thought would come in and be able to contribute to the board, and the library board specifically, like you said, within their purview. And when I was trying to narrow down this list, first and foremost, aren't we so lucky to have so many amazing people in this village? I'm looking over these applications, it's like, it's just wow. People do the most incredible things, and they have just the most incredible resume, and it's just so impressive to me. Just how many people are here in this community and that they want to help. Really, we really are so lucky in that regard. But what I tried to kind of do to limit the list, because this is a big list, was to try to look at people who were maybe very different from each other in terms of their qualifications. Maybe people who had a lot more experience, more library experience, less library specific experience, somebody with a fresh perspective, things like that. And, I don't think we really have any bad choices on this list, which makes the decision is more difficult for us. But I do think it, based on my kind of comparing and contrasting of the applications themselves, I am leaning towards looking at somebody who has a more, who might give a more of a fresh perspective on the library and the library board itself. But again, I just want to emphasize, we really do have a lot of great options here. So.
There's not much more I can add, I think, to both Trustee Baldoff and Trustee Lim's assessment of the situation. For me personally, it's somebody that can really help lead here. I think it's really important that we bring somebody in that is familiar with boards and board process, and somebody that can be a unifier, and somebody that can really take our library board to sort of a very healthy space. And I'm just so grateful that we had so many applicants for this position. It made our jobs actually very difficult. I think everybody that has applied is extremely qualified, and we would love to have served, if not on this board, on any of our other boards. you know, maybe we should have more controversies in the community if this helps bring out volunteers for these different boards and committees. So I think, you know, I think after reviewing all these applications, we do have, I think, people that I feel comfortable that would fit the role of leader, of somebody that has experience on board. Like you both have said, I think that's really important, that sort of board experience. For me was absolutely the most important. You know, I think library experience is great, but really board experience and interpersonal sort of relationship experience is also extremely important, especially kind of for the position the board is in right now. So I think that's kind of how I focused on looking at the applicants. But very grateful for everybody to have submitted an application. We've got so many great applicants here on file. Hopefully they'll be willing to serve on other boards if this isn't for them.
Thank you. So I think what I'd like to do now is we'll open it up if there are any members of the public who have anything that they would like us to consider. And then after we hear from the members of the public who are with us this evening, I'd like for the trustees to go around and we can all, you know, share our, you know, top 3 or 4 candidates, you know, in no particular order, and kind of go from there. Okay.
Great.
Wonderful. So if there's anyone from the public who would like to be heard here, I see that Barbara has a hand raised, and if there's anybody else, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. I've been attending village board meetings since 2014. And so I'm used to a JP&L, you know, interviewing maybe like 3 candidates for an opening on a committee or commission. And so my only question is that what you plan to do, sort of narrow your applicants down and then bring in your top candidates for an interview?
That's a great question. What I can tell you is that I did speak with a number of candidates, and that what we are doing this evening, though, is we are preparing for the JP&L committee to make a recommendation to the board this evening. You know, we want to make sure this vacancy is filled as soon as possible. This was something that we originally had on our agenda 2 weeks ago, and we decided to, you know, defer it to this evening, but didn't want to wait any further because there's definitely a desire from the library board to have the vacancy filled as soon as possible.
Yeah, I agree that, you know, and we have been looking at these for a while, these applications. So, I mean, I'm prepared at this point to make a vote. You know, I don't think a further additional interview on top of what's already been conducted would change, you know, my perspective.
I agree.
Okay, I see we have someone else with their hand raised. And if you could just state your name and address, please, and then go ahead with your comments.
I'm Alex Dimitrov. I was kicked off the library board a couple of weeks ago, and I'd like to note that none of the applicants have ever attended a library board meeting. And a couple of you have mentioned that experience on a board is important, but I wonder how many of these applicants understand the difference between the library board and other boards in the village. And is that something you're going to inquire about, or are you just going to go with experience on a board is okay?
Thank you for the comment. You know, what we are looking at, as we said, is we are looking for experience in managing and leading teams, those interpersonal skills, and involvement with boards and committees. Anybody who's first serving on a board or committee, that's their first time serving on that board or committee. You can't do the job until you do the job. So I think we have every confidence that we have a really wonderful pool of applicants to choose from. And while none of them have they haven't served on the Shorewood Library Board, they have really wonderful, relevant experience to bring to the table.
Anyone else? I'm happy to hear from anybody, any of the applicants as well.
We have another hand raised, Anjum.
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Anjum Alden. I'm at 4509 North Larkin Street. I think given the current circumstances of the library board, it's important to consider applicants that have been on boards before that have had some tension in them or had other things that needed to be smoothed over or resolved as the board member, as the new board forms or as the new board member joins the board. And I just hope something like that will be considered as well.
Thank you.
All right, it looks like, we have, oh, no other hands raised here. All right, then if that is the case, then it looks like we have no other hands raised here. Oh, wait, it looks like we do have, Alex, we'd be willing to take another comment here. And then we're gonna move on. Okay, well then it looks like we don't, have any,
Bitch.
Whoa,
excuse me?
unmuted at the wrong time.
I'm incredibly disappointed to hear, any attack, especially a gendered one like that. So, we will not be taking any additional comment from you this evening. But if you have other, things to share with the board, you should definitely feel free to put those in email to the trustees. If there's no other, participants with a comment, at the time, then I think we'll move forward to, additional discussion among the trustees and keep things moving here. So, trustees, I would like to go ahead and just have folks kind of go around the horn. And again, in no particular order, and understanding that there are no bad choices here, share the top, 3 or 4 choices that you have, and then we can kind of whittle those down and hopefully have a great decision by the end of our meeting.
I'm happy to go first with a couple of names here, and again with the preface that I feel bad that I can't pick everybody. But a couple people stood out to me. I really appreciated the experience that was listed on Andrew Alden's application. I appreciated seeing the application from Patrick Lenane, who has previously served on the board. And I was really quite interested in the application from, I believe it was Chris McLean, who is a professor and is newer to the village, but I thought had some really good experience that they could bring to the board. And so it's sort of a different, I thought 3 people who are really each in a different and unique space in the village, and kind of compared against everybody else. And I thought those 3 really kind of stood out to me as good candidates. But again, really no bad choices on the list, but those 3 were my initial grouping.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So my top sort of 2 in no particular order would be Andrew Maldine. I also really appreciate the experience of Patrick Lenani. Lenny,
I've always said Lenny.
Lenny, sorry, Patrick, but I think that's the kind of experience for me that's really stands out. I mean, he was part of the village board for 6 years, so he really understands board dynamics. It may not be the library board, but I think we can all assume that the village board, it really helps you gauge, it really helps you form your opinion on how boards should be run. And for somebody that's been on a village board for 6 years, I think that's a really valuable asset. For me, I'm on the fence, but not on the fence. I think they're both fantastic applicants. So I would say Chris McLean has a lot of really great experience, really compelling story. I think she could bring a lot of good, positive energy to that board. But also Ben Hubner, for me, was also kind of stuck out as somebody Brendan Hubner really stuck out for me too with his experience and I think those two, so I know I threw 4 out there, which probably does not help at all, but those 4 really stuck out to me. So I think if we, I think they're all great applicants, but those would be kind of the 4. And I think my top 2 would probably be Anjum as well as Patrick would probably be my top 2, to be honest.
Great. Well, definitely we have some overlap, and again, like you guys said, we, had so many great applicants. For some of the same reasons, some of the same people stuck out to me. Patrick Lane, again, having that experience, it seems like it's, with lots of, kind of moving pieces and that we've had some turmoil. This is filling a vacancy that's, midterm. I do think it would be nice to have somebody with a lot of experience in boards and committees in the village. But also Chris McLean stuck out to me with kind of that fresh perspective, someone who's a professional educator and incredibly well-versed in DEI space. And I think someone who can bring some perspective on ways to expand access was compelling to me. Brendan Hubner also stuck out to me, as did Shanna Hiller, somebody else with professional experience in public education and has experience working on boards and committees that have a public component as well. So those were the folks that stuck out to me. So it sounds like we have a number of areas of overlap among trustees. So, I guess I would open it up if there's any additional conversation that we're looking to have, or if anybody is, ready to advocate for one person, make a motion. I'm ready to entertain whatever.
Well, I think,
Right,
so there's 2 overlapping with trustee Lynn and I. Can you foresee yourself, are there any characteristics of those 2 candidates or 3 candidates that we listed that may?
Yeah, I mean, I think really it comes down to, are we looking for, what's more important maybe is having that, steady leadership of somebody who really knows Shorewood and Shorewood's boards and committees and how things work in Shorewood, or is having somebody with maybe a fresh perspective also appealing? Kind of seems like those are 2 different ends of the spectrum there.
I agree, and
And both are good,
Yeah. Sorry. I would just say, only, something we kind of mentioned is like leadership experience. But I think for a little bit of perspective, especially from the outside looking in, this person is going to come on and be one member of the board. Leadership experience, that can almost get in the way if your expectation coming out of that board is that you're going to come fix it. You're going to be the leader. You're going to take charge. That's really not how that's going to work. You have to work with 6 other individuals. When I first got onto a volunteer board several years ago, when I was interviewed by the JPL committee, one of the things they mentioned to me was, are you prepared with things working at the speed of government and bureaucracy? That you can't just say, I want this done and it's going to get done. There's a lot of levels and there's a lot of different bureaucracy to take into account. So I am interested in somebody who understands that, and at a minimum, even if you don't have experience with that, you're willing to work in that system. Because it's a difficult system to work in when you're not the decision maker, you know, when you're one of seven. So, you know, that's just maybe doesn't help anything in this immediate discussion, but that is kind of one thing I was thinking about. And, you know, trustee Yurcik, I pushed you kind of the same question you asked, trustee Revoldoff. Trustee Revoldoff and I both mentioned Chris McLean on our list as a newer person in the village who had a compelling application. Did you have any concerns about that application, or, you know, just not on your top list, which is fine?
And no concerns at all. She'd probably be fantastic, but when I looked at it holistically, you know, the people that stuck out to me were the names listed, you know, and she was sort of part of that mix, but maybe not the absolute top of those three. But would not be opposed to that if that's the consensus of everyone else. I think she'd be a fantastic candidate. You know, I think that, you know, I ended up, you know, trying to reach out to as many people as possible. And I did talk to Anjum, and Anjum, you know, one of the things she talked about was one of the boards she was on was a band board. And she had come into this band board and it was in disarray. There was a lot of toxicity on the board, and she was able to see through that and create a healthy sort of dynamic. And that really kind of stuck out to me. You know, it's something that we're kind of in a very similar situation. There's some very toxic people on this library board. And, you know, we are in a situation now where we need people that can come in and clean that up. So that to me was compelling. You know, the board experience, like, again, that's also very compelling. So, but again, Chris's past is, or Chris's application is extremely compelling. She's got a lot of very, very high level things that she's done, but her story is also really, really engaging. So I don't think we could go wrong with her at all.
Are we back right back where we
I
started?
think we are, but did you want to offer some thoughts? Trustee Fran, would love to hear from you.
So I didn't know Patrick Lenine had applied, so did I miss was that in the packet?
He is.
It was an update. His application came in a little bit later than some of the other ones, so it was an update to the packet.
Okay, maybe.
His name isn't on the list, but his application. is in
Okay,
there.
all right. I just, again, would like to, as everyone said, thank everyone for applying. It's just heartwarming to see the level of concern and care and enthusiasm for our library. And I would echo some things you said that I don't want to, it's like we want someone to fit in, but we want someone to stand out in a leadership role. And so this is really looking for balance here. I would say, in my mind, that means I want someone who hasn't been necessarily really involved in a village capacity before, because I think we have to be very mindful of the concern that people have for the separation. And I think we've already appointed a trustee and a former trustee. And so, with all due respect to Mr. Lenine, thank you for stepping up. I just think it's time, and as you look through this list of people, I'm not so sure that, you know, I think a fresh perspective here would be good, but yet someone who knows the village well. And so I only know, in the interest of full disclosure, I only know Kathy Schill because our kids were in an event together in Shorewood High School. I just know that she has been in the village a long time. She has not been highly involved, but I see that as a plus, as well as her background in law. And so I do, again, thank everyone for putting in their application, and that's why I thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that perspective. I have some thoughts, of course.
Go ahead.
So to kind of piggyback off of that, Trustee Sobran, I do agree with that perspective as well. You know, I mean, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I think if I was leaning towards an individual who was bringing a fresh perspective, just again based on the way I had broken it down in my mind, I would lean towards Chris McLean, as I had mentioned earlier. And, just as someone who's seen kind of the new west to the whole scene here, which I think in this unique case could actually be, a bit of a benefit. A couple of the names that have been mentioned, I really like those applications as well. Just that on the farthest end of that spectrum of a fresh face, that's kind of where I'm.
Yeah, I can appreciate trustee Stokbrand's, opinion, and it's definitely something that it makes you think, right? But I kind of go back to the fact that we are in sort of a dysfunctional state with that board, and it would be really helpful to have somebody that understands how boards work. And because that's from talking to trustee Kudo, who's now our representative on that board, the thing that he said time and time again is that this board doesn't know how to, necessarily. It's not operating as a board, and I think it's really important to have somebody with that kind of experience joining, so they can help share their experiences in those capacities. So I try not to let fresh face versus more experienced resident sort of affect my opinion on this. I look for somebody that can really kind of help navigate board experience and and get this board on track. So also knowing that there's another position on this board opening up in April, I think it is, or May. Two more positions opening up. So there's going to be a lot of space to fill, and these applicants are all going to be in that conversation again. I think, but right now, I think for me, it's so critical that we find somebody that has had experience working in sort of tumultuous situations and tumultuous boards that can really help sort of like balance that out a little bit. Just my opinion, but again, everybody is a fantastic candidate, and I would not be opposed to anybody on here. So
I have worked with Mr. Lane in the past on the pedestrian bike safety committee. He was the liaison for a few years. And he was wonderful to work with. I can't lie on that. So just to, throw that out there to further add more things to consider.
So, Sharon, what would be a good way to narrow this list down and maybe get to a solution? Or
Sure, that's a great question.
I'm open to any suggestion.
I was gonna say, one question I do have, maybe Clerk Carroll, or Village Manager, you all could answer this. The vacancy we are filling here, can you remind us when this term expires? That would be filled? Sorry, put you on the spot.
May 31st.
So this term would only be until May, right? Okay.
would this person then be able to rerun, or are they kind of following their predecessor?
They're just filling this vacancy.
Yeah.
And they can reconsider for
Okay.
an open seat.
I have a point of information. I was in the impression that the former president, that the former president and the two that were removed had terms expiring in April. This is the Lane Main seat. And so I don't think this ends in April.
Correct.
Okay. And I had one other comment too.
It is a shortened term, I believe, right? It's at least 1 year in. So,
Let me check that out.
Okay. And then if you have another
I
comment.
had one other question. So I know, Anjum is on social media in the village, and I don't see it on her education and work experience here. But I guess that would be something that would be important for me to know going forward. I don't see someone on this board leading a social media platform in the village. And, so that's an issue.
Can you, would you just explain that a little bit more? Like, do you feel like that's a value to have somebody in social media, or not?
I'm just saying, social media can be very, uneven. That's a euphemism. And so it seems to me that for someone on this board, I just wonder would this person make a choice? I see a conflict there.
I do have the answer for that seat that
Okay.
resigned. Their term was ending May 31st, 2025.
Okay, so this is a
So it's a good tweet.
pretty significant chunk of time. I just wanted to clarify. Okay. Thank you for the comment, trustee Stokebrand. I will say, I do see that Anjum did disclose her affiliation with different groups on the application, so I appreciate that transparency from her and, know her as a really, caring member of the social media.
My area is on there. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Andrew for a while and she's been a very positive sort of influence in the community, and that's her whole reason for being on social media is to be a more sort of positive influence out there. So not all social media is bad, and I think I give her a lot of respect for trying to push a very positive message. She also runs the Shore Care Network, Buy Nothing Shorewood, so she's just really, she might be in social media, but she's also a very positive sort of person that's out there on social media. And not a negative person, but never once known her to be negative at all. So
That's been my experience.
Okay, so I think that what we're kind of back at our same quagmire here, and we have 5 minutes left of the
I got an idea.
meeting. Great.
Maybe we could throw a name out there and all three of us would have to say, we agree with that name, and move forward.
Okay, so are you looking to get to a motion or looking to,
Unless we want to take three names to the village board and complete that, which I don't think we want to.
No.
what would not be my preference? If we cannot reach a consensus as a committee, then it would be my preference to do an actual interview process with our top three candidates before we go back to the board, but my preference would be for us to advance a recommendation this evening because, we don't want this to take, much longer. We're getting into the holiday season,
Yeah,
stuff for
I agree.
people.
If we did another round of interviews, we'd be back with the same. three
Exactly,
also.
be back
People.
with
I mean, when you have such great people.
a ton of great people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, for this position, given the experiences I've had in the village, if I had to pick one person that I felt would be a consensus type of pick, I would go with Patrick Lenane, based on my experience working with him in the past. I could certainly support that as one individual. Again, if somebody throws out another name, there's very little that I would be opposed to. So I'm definitely open to hearing that, but he was somebody who kind of fell on all of our lists at some place. So.
That is a choice that I could definitely agree with as well.
Yeah, I think the two names would be for me, Anjum and Patrick. So those would be my two names coming, so.
Such a tough choice.
Yeah.
And there will be another opening coming up in May. Two openings or one opening in May, two openings in May.
Two openings this May with currently held by trustee Kudo, former trustee Moore. Those should be up in, we would choose in April, I think, right?
Yes. And I believe, my understanding is there might be an additional vacancy as well at some point, so.
Okay. Good, no,
Okay. Then knowing that we've got just a couple minutes here, is anyone willing to make a motion or ready to make a motion? Or are we not there yet? We have some additional conversation to have.
I'm open to any last comments, concerns, otherwise I will get to the page with the motion and fire it off. Anyone from anywhere?
Okay, yes,
I do just want to say, regarding the Facebook page, people have been banned from the Facebook page, right? I mean, I think even possibly one of our own trustees has been banned from this Facebook page. So it seems to me that that's something we need to think about. If you're going to move someone into a spot in this sort of situation that we've got with the library board, you have someone who's working on a social media platform advance people from the page, including possibly a trustee. There's something to take
And
into
you,
consideration.
seriously, I mean, do you understand any of the details behind any of the situations or why this would happen? I mean, do you think people could have been rude and disrespectful?
Well,
But I don't think that's.
yeah, I don't want us to get off track here because we are just about at time. And we want to make sure that we're making, respectful, responsible decision here. So I want us to stay on track.
I'm happy to make a motion. And if it's shot down, my feelings won't be hurt.
Okay.
I move to forward the applicant Patrick Lene for approval by the full village board, November 20th, 2023 village board meeting.
I would second that. Great. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, well then that motion's gonna carry 2-1, and we will forward the recommendation of Patrick Lene to the full village board later this evening. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for the members of the public who attended this evening. And again, want to just, state on the record how lucky we are to have had so many great applicants. We'll definitely be reaching out to everyone after this evening and very much hope that those folks will remain interested in serving on the library board because we will have some vacancies and I know
what's
I've
the other
got.
boards?
And also, if any of you are interested in serving on other boards and committees, please let us know. We can, amend/update those applications to note any other capacities in which you might be willing to serve. So thank you. And with that, we take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All right, we are adjourned at 6:59.
And then Public Works is staying in here.
And it's 7 o'clock. Hi. Come on up.
Very
Good to see you. Me too.
crazy situation. Yeah. It was in the public works.
It's so clear. I like.
Celebrating eternity.
Can I interest anyone in some
Halloween candy?
you want?
You got a date?
Oh, yeah.
I'll trade you how much Halloween candy is as it goes through my house.
There's it's an issue.
We did a nice thing, I had my girls sit together, some all their candy in one pile, we did it all those balls. They had it separated for the longest time. I said, you guys want to just up in the pile, pick out and then take 2 little lunch breaks, with the rest in the school to do with my students. It's like,
It's very good.
I just gotta purge some of it. There's just so much.
Jerry, my son and his friends all came back to our house after they trick or treated
Oh,
and did the candy trade. And we weighed it. They got 27 pounds of candy between the 4 of them.
that's that older boys, like, they're like,
The pillowcase, right?
I made him take an actual bag. I was like, you can't just take it.
I love the backpack strapped on front.
And they did wear costumes too. So it's like you can't, you have to be polite and you have to actually wear a costume. Put some effort in.
I saw one of my students at Riverside who was retreating in Shorewood with his like younger siblings who were real little. And this kid's like 6'4". So it's like a sore thumb. But then I brought it up in class on the Monday after, and man, his friends let him have it for trick or treating. It was quite a funny. It was very sweet, but it was also very funny. He has a great sense of humor. It was all in good fun.
Should we get rolling with Public Works? Are we recording? Fantastic. So that last conversation was,
On the vote. Good.
anyway, well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Public Works Committee. All trustees of this committee are accounted for and present. Tonight, we have two items to discuss. Discussion item number one is a discussion regarding modifications to the village code related to unauthorized removal of public trees. And also the second agenda item is to consider ordinance 3060 parking prohibition at Downer and Edgewood. So with that, conversation number one will be the discussion regarding modifications to the village code regarding unauthorized removal of public trees. Tonight we have Leanne Bushlick, Director of Public Works, here to fill us in on all those details. Good evening, Director Bushlick.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening. So as noted in the memo, this particular, the reason I'm here tonight was prompted by an unfortunate incident where we have documented the cutting, I guess, of a tree on village property at the nature center, or nature preserve, excuse me. A change to the code in the level of forfeiture certainly would not likely have prevented this incident. But in a review of the code after that incident, it appears to staff at least that the current level of forfeiture is certainly not serving as any type of deterrent. And I think we are probably all in agreement that we want to do everything that we can to deter this type of behavior in the future. So after consulting with the village attorney, he advised that, in fact, the forfeiture level is set by the municipal judge in the municipal ordinance violation schedule. The process for that is after any type of modification to that schedule, it comes to the village board for approval. But it does, the genesis of that is with the municipal judge. So the ask tonight is for you to direct staff to begin that process. And when that is complete, it would come back here for your approval. At this particular point, the idea would be that we would be looking for a range. Rather than the current $10 to $500, we would probably be looking at a range likely between $5,000 and $10,000. That would allow some fairly significant leeway.
Sorry about that.
That's right. And would allow us to, or the municipal judge to set that actual forfeiture level based on the conditions of any individual case. Certainly certain trees will have greater value than others. That is sometimes in part due to their species, but often it is also due to their location. So that's the ask this evening.
Thank you, thank you. Trustees, do you have any questions for the?
No, I think this is a great idea. I mean, I think this is something that we've seen happen, you know, or I've seen in the news in the past, not from Shorewood specifically, but I've seen it in other communities, particularly along the lake, where people have cut down trees. Or so that they can look at the lake without having to walk anywhere. And I think it's inappropriate and wrong, and I'm more than happy pursuing this. So I mean, I'm you know, it's a shame that anyone would think that they could cut down a tree for that purpose.
Trustee Baldwin.
I agree.
Yeah, I would say that for me personally, I think that maximum fine is $5,000 to $10,000 is appropriate. And you know, for a village like us that really prides ourselves on our trees and our urban canopy, I think this is you know, this is definitely a really good move on our behalf. I'm sure it'd be very difficult for us to enforce that at times, especially like this situation. But I do think that that would show the value on our public trees. So I would be definitely in favor of that. Just a quick question for you. Do we know any more details? Have we talked a while ago about this, but were you able to circle back with anybody over at the, in that area.
So I did request that a police report be filed. So an officer, reviewed the report, the Merrick report, vegetative survey. He did speak with the condo association president, who was, I believe, sincerely, apologetic and just as surprised and dismayed as the rest of us. Based on the location of the tree, it
You don't have to.
no, I mean, we've narrowed it down to potential suspects in a potential building. And I believe police contact was made with that individual or individuals, but I don't expect any additional action to be taken.
If someone came forward and admitted, would they be charged? Would they be assessed the original fine and the new fine?
My understanding is it would be the code in place at the time of the incident.
Do you need a motion from us or?
If you would, please.
Sure.
I think there's one in the, actually, no, there's no motion. I think your direction is okay for us to
Yeah,
proceed.
put that out there, but to fellow trustees, you agree with that?
Agree.
Yeah. Then proceeds.
All right, so I think you have that. Thank you, Leon, for dealing with that. Next on the agenda, we have an ordinance to consider, 3060, and it's an ordinance prohibiting parking on Edgewood Avenue and Downer Avenue. Leon?
Most of you will recall that Edgewood and Downer intersection is the approximate location of the below ground structure, which houses Milwaukee's master meters and houses other water distribution system infrastructure. As it's below grade, that structure is accessed through a locked door in the sidewalk on the east side of Downer Avenue. In order to access that with staff and equipment, that area really does need to be kept clear. In addition, there are a number of valves that are operated outside that structure at the street level, within the intersection, and then kind of moving eastward into Edgewood Avenue, just on the east side of Downer Avenue. Recently, we were doing some routine maintenance there, and we're having some issues with some parked cars. And staff reminded me that we really do need to keep that area clear. Probably should have done this a couple of years ago, but here we are. So this really just prohibits parking with enough access area for our personnel and equipment.
My only question, which I didn't see, and I apologize if I missed it. Do we know roughly how many spaces this would get rid of? Didn't seem like it was that much.
Well, on the Edgewood side, technically speaking, I don't believe it would remove any spaces because you can't park within 15 feet of a crosswalk.
Okay.
And there is a driveway right there.
Okay.
On the Downer side, I think we're looking at 66 feet, so minus 15 on the crosswalk. And we went from the center line, I'm gonna say maybe 3 or 4 at most. And there are no other restrictions on the remainder of the block.
Okay.
Is this kind of on the east side of?
This would be on the
Edgewood?
east side of,
Okay.
oh, it's the east side of Downer, north side of Edgewood.
East side of it, yeah, exactly. Okay. I'm just looking at a map right now and I see like a silver box.
Yep.
Is that kind of what's?
So that box actually contains our SCADA equipment, which is the monitor for water flow through the structure.
Trustee Baldwin, do you have any comments or concerns?
No, I think this seems reasonable. It's not a significant impact on spaces and, parking availability. So being able to access that infrastructure in an emergency situation is very important.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I just, the only note I'd make is, just being very sensitive to the folks that live in that area and what they're kind of going through and, I hate to take away any parking from anybody, but I think this, takes precedence, being able to access a lot of this, these utilities is extremely important for you, so, and DPW, so I would agree with the direction here.
I actually parked in that exact spot like about a year ago. And I remember thinking to myself, like, there's no way this is a parking spot. I kept looking like, I can't be in the right spot because there's stuff there. It's right on the corner. So I think it's probably okay.
All right, would, you like to make a motion?
Do I have to read the ordinance or can I just, I see the motion, okay. I move that ordinance 3060, an ordinance prohibiting parking on East Edgewood Avenue and North Downer Avenue, be recommended for full village board consideration.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. And that ordinance moves forward to the village board.
That'll appear on the December 4th agenda.
December 4th. Thank you for your time tonight, Leon.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
With that concludes the Department of Public Works meeting convening for this evening. Is anybody adjourned? Second? All right. We are adjourned at 7:14 p.m. Thank you.